All right. Well, guys, ready to rock and roll? I was telling Jackie that oddly enough, when she called me at 1 a.m. when I was in Switzerland on your meeting, when I did not answer. So sorry, guys. Did not. All right. Well, guys, ready to rock and roll? I was telling Jackie that oddly enough,
Oh, we're getting a loop
at 1 a.m. when I was in Switzerland on your meeting when I. No, you don't want to hear me twice. Believe me. I hear myself enough. So my apologies. I know there was some confusion on scheduling. I think we're back in line with the right dates moving forward. No worries. But I was not in the right frame of mind and or country to assist you all. So
awesome.
Everyone's doing well. What I had on the agenda, and please correct me, I'm trying to keep track with where I'm missing a few meetings as I have. I think there was a request to kind of maybe establish our norms, our ground rules that we had. I don't know if we actually really ever established them before. Just making sure we understand the expectations on how we're going to be using our negotiations this year. Maybe a quick overview of kind of the intentional bargaining that we've been trying to work on that expedites the interest-based bargaining process compared to more. It's not traditional. It's not IBB. It's kind of somewhere in the middle where we still get to hear the story and the interests. Then we kind of get some proposals moving forward or languages, knowing that we're taking that information we've discussed before we draft the proposal. So the hope is we listen, we hear, we use that to draft proposals to make more sense of what both sides are trying to accomplish. I believe the association folks had a couple of questions regarding the audits, and then maybe more of a conversation around the ESPs. Am I missing anything? I was trying to go back through my notes.
I would love, and maybe we start with this, to revisit the dates. The only reason being I thought I had them correct, and then I was checking calendar invites and I confused myself even more. So I'd love to relook at them. And I think we had a note that we wanted to add another May date, which just made me wonder, what do we all have on the calendars? So I'd love to do that.
Yeah, do we want to start there? Let me pull it up because I have you all kind of in folders on my computer.
Okay.
So I think there were some that you all were going to meet without me. And I think that probably added to the confusion.
Could have been.
So, get into the right year. So the additional dates that I have on my calendar is next Monday, April 25th. I have Monday, May 2nd, and I have Monday, May 9th. Those are the remaining ones I have.
How about the rest of the crew? Because I'm confused what we confirmed or what we didn't confirm or what's on calendars. I don't think my calendar is accurate.
I don't have May 9th on there, and I don't know if we pulled it off or if it was never there.
I feel like we had it and we pulled it off, but I can't remember why.
I don't have May 9th either. Yeah.
Me either. Well, I guess I wanted to meet you all on my brother's birthday. I guess that was it.
Does May 9th work for everyone? Because we could easily put it back on.
I could do May 9th.
You guys all good with that? Jill, you look stressed.
So national boards are due May 18th, along with me being the senior class sponsor.
Yeah.
Bargaining, and my job.
Yeah, that feels like a lot.
So if May 9th works for everybody, I'll have to make it work. I'm not seeing a lot of sleep in the next 5 weeks for me.
Besides April 25th and May 2nd, is there a date that I missed that maybe you all were meeting? That's what everybody else has. May 9th was just the oddball.
I think so. For some reason, I think either took off or didn't have April 25th, but I'm good with it. So I want to make sure everyone had April 25th on there. We're good. Okay. Okay. So April 25th is a yes. May 2nd is a yes. Jill, I'm going to ask you, because I worry about you, is May 16th better than May 9th? But it's right before boards and it's closer to graduation. And I don't know if that works for everyone, but I do worry about the load that you've got on your plate right now. Oh, Jackie's saying no.
Yeah, I'm out of the country again, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, if besides a month, let me just see if I have any other. I have I have 4 to 9s basically every single day. Trying to wrap up all the schools. I do have April 27th that I could offer as it's a Wednesday.
I think that one might be out for me.
It might be, we have the 25th and that I see head nods. Okay, so no's. Okay.
Yeah, I can't do the 27th.
I mean, we could put a hold on May 9th, and then if the world falls together, we could release that date.
Yeah.
Is that okay, Jill? You can say no. I'm not putting you on the spot, but I guess I am.
If I don't show up, you'll know why. How about that?
Yeah.
No,
And
I
maybe
would-
it gives us extra motivation to work really hard on the 25th and the 2nd. I mean, I don't want to rush things, but I also want to be cognizant of what you've got going on.
Sure. Everybody, right.
Yeah, those are pretty big things though.
They are.
Okay. Well, we'll put a hold. So I have April 25th, May 2nd, May 9th as of right now. We can look at other, well, I really don't have any other dates. I'm sorry. I'm swamped as per usual. But we will try to see if we can get everything accomplished by May 2nd. Early birthday present to me. So even more of a reason to get done.
When's your birthday?
May 3rd.
Woo!
Yeah.
Okay. Mine's the 10th and I'm not shy about it at all. And I really like cake. Just
Oh,
putting
okay.
it out there. So y'all
Mine's
know.
the
Mine's the
5th, but I
20
remember that. That's funny.
Mine's the 26th.
You
So,
guys, we need
May
we need to
birthday.
listen.
I remember last year, Emily, yours was close to mine.
Yeah.
All in May? All of you are in May? Okay.
Doesn't that mean we're all a Taurus, like the bull? No wonder.
Melanie's not. But
Oh.
I think
I'm
three
a
of us-
Gemini. That's why it's hard for me to make decisions.
Mine's April 24th.
Then you're we're all the same.
Nice.
I am also an April baby.
That's right. You just had one, didn't you?
Yeah, it's the 3rd.
Oh,
Oh,
dang.
wow.
Cool.
Really we got a whole bunch of us. All right. Well, let's try to see if we can get it together, solve the world's problems, of course, that we were trying to do before with these dates. So that now we have a better understanding of the dates. I know that last year we had kind of established norms and expectations, ground rules, and I was trying to right now, honestly, pull up if I had a PowerPoint for all of you from before. Around this. I don't even look like I have it, but what I normally do for our norms are, now my computer's going to freeze. Don't do this to me. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. There. Okay. 13 times a charm finally for today. But this is just another PowerPoint that I use for most of mine. Just kind of these are the ground rules, norms that I often use for our folks, of course. So we'll review them. We can add to them. We can take some away. Just making sure we have a better understanding or expectations of how we're going to work together. So once again, we're going to state views and ask our genuine questions as us being as collaborative as we can be. And I have to say this because I'm saying it to all of my groups. Just because you use the word collaborative does not mean that you're actually being collaborative. I'd like us to actually try to be collaborative. Not to you, because I know Q always points out and she wants me to say, you guys are my favorite group. But I can't say that, but just making sure we understand each other. And we're trying to share all the relevant information. This is not traditional bargaining where we try to hide the buck or hide things behind each other. We put out what we need. We put out what we want. We try to see if we can find some middle ground and expectations. Use specific examples and agree on what important words mean. Really, that means some of my groups, they will, use an acronym that I have no idea what it means because I don't pretend to know all the acronyms from all the industries I work with. then people don't know what something means. And in the end, it causes more confusion. So if there's ever an acronym or a terminology, you're like, I don't know what that means. I just want you to clearly ask, what the heck does that mean? It helps us along the way so we don't have any of that potential confusion. I always try to explain our reasoning and intent of why we're doing something, why we're asking something. What's the reasoning, the rationale, the why? Really just trying to uncover the why around everything we're doing, especially with negotiations. Try to test our assumptions and inferences. What I have seen through my eyes and what you have seen through yours are different. So we try to understand one another, hear each other, get a better understanding. Just because somebody says something that we disagree with doesn't mean they're a horrible human being. Not that once again, that's this group, but I always try to bring that out to people. We always focus on the issue, not the people. We always try to jointly decide next steps. So say there's going to be someone drafting some contract language. We want to jointly agree who's going to do it, when it's going to be done, 30 milestones, all that good stuff. Focus always on our interests, not our positions. Remember, our interest is why we want something, not I want what I want. Our positions are based on, a need, and our interests are more about the why around it. So just try to say, this is why we're seeking this. This is why it's a problem. Discuss the undiscussable issues. If something's wrong, we need to bring it to the forefront and talk about it. And if we are doing consensus making, of course, using a decision-making rule that generates the level of commitment needed. If we are going to agree upon something, we're using consensus, everybody has to agree upon it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you have to bring it forward. I am empowering you as your facilitator to be able to say and speak clearly and as best as you can. Anything on these ground rules we'd like to add, change, anything else we maybe just want to talk about? Laugh at Emily's jokes also can be put on there. I often do that. Just know that you all can put on your creative thinking caps, work collaboratively. You are the experts in whatever conflict we're trying to accomplish. So just know that we can and we will do it. So anything else around ground rules, norms, expectations?
No, I think everything is said in there in a few different ways, which is really great. And I don't know that this is more of maybe a process thing, but I like how the last few sessions we've agreed on someone taking notes and then doing that shared message at the end. I think that's a really nice strategy to do. So I don't know if we want to rotate the notes around or how we want to do that, but that helps me remember what we've done.
What are folks' thoughts on that? Every session we pop in and someone says, I'm going to be the note taker of the day. Thumbs up and head nods. Who wants to be the note taker of the day? Q's out. Jackie's out. I'm out. Jill raised her hand. Oh, Jill. Okay.
That just means I don't have to do it later when I'm more stressed, right?
Yes.
Get it out of the way.
Yes, you can go ahead and get it out now. I'll remember. Next time on April 25th, I will not be asking Jill. Okay, got it.
Okay. Do we still have that shared document? Are we adding to it each time? I feel like Holly might have had it, but I'm not sure.
I think Jackie had it and Karen had it. I had it. Let me do some digging.
I think it's like linked in our Google folder that we use. So it doesn't live there, but you can get to it from there.
Okay.
All right. Let me see what I can find.
I'll give you 1 second because I'm so sorry. I have to blow my nose because I have horrible allergies and I have a cold. Give me 2 seconds.
Quick, add some fun norms that she doesn't know about. It'll be like a game. Just kidding.
See, my house is so small, I just ran to the other side and back. So that's the one joy. Sorry about that. Okay, so we'll go ahead. We have our notes for today. Will be Jill. And then the next thing I had is kind of just a quick review of intentional negotiation. I know in person, and I think given last year, I did kind of a virtual overview of the interest-based bargaining process. As you all can tell, I do it all day, every day. So I've tried to come up with a way that is a little more streamlined. Most people, it just takes a long time. IBB has a time and a place and it works really well. I've been trying to put my creative thinking cap on developing and drafting intentional negotiations where it's still the benefit of story. Everyone gets to hear each other. We focus on our interests. But then one party says, hey, I'm going to be the one, I've listened to what you've had to say, and I'm going to draft up some proposed language. So I just have a very quick, another little share. Which one I have. So this is just a quick spectrum to make sure people understand kind of the difference. So traditional no negotiations is less collaborative, right? Kind of hiding more things. It's the typical thing people think of, passing proposals across the table. Interest-based is pretty collaborative, where you're talking very openly. It's a joint decision-making process. Affinity, which is in the far right, is something you would do with like Post-it notes. It's the most collaborative process, and it works with certain industries, but most people are trying to find something in the middle. And this is our intentional negotiations, where we're still being collaborative, but we're also trying to get the job done in a more fast-paced aspect. Really, what intentional negotiations and how it works at the table is we identify the issue, just like an IBB. What is the problem that we're trying to solve? Usually one party will bring something forward. How do we address overtime rotation? Whatever the topic may be. One party brings it forward. And then me as your facilitator or whoever will have a discussion. Well, I'll ask you these discussion questions to get the conversation going. Does everyone understand the issue? And this means both sides, because I promise sometimes it's one side may not even know what the issue is that they're bringing forward. So we ask, does everybody understand the issue? We go through that. We write things down. Concern. What concerns exist around this problem and what should be considered? Maybe there's some parameters. Maybe there's some facts and figures we want to draft into it. We talk about the clarity of the issue. We talk about any concerns that either side may have around the issue. And then as a joint, as always, we develop options. What ideas exist that might help solve this problem? So still kind of in the lines of IBB, a little more streamlined. And then it's a proposal assignment. It doesn't necessarily have to be the party that brought the issue forward. It can be, and I'd say 75% of the time it is. But other times, maybe it's the other side that goes, wow, you've really got my creative thinking cap going. I would like, or my group would like to draft a proposal. So you're looking at those options. We've talked about it in detail. We've talked about any issues or concerns what might be brought forward to it. And we all understand the problem. One party says, great, I'm going to go draft a proposal. And then if I know our sessions are rather short, if it was a long multi-day session or 12 hours, one party would jump off into caucus, draft the proposal, and then bring it back. And you'd still have that joint dialogue, right? But you'd already have something maybe more concrete, pen to paper, so it pushes things forward a little bit more. And maybe less, I know I like the round robin, but sometimes it kind of gets belabored. We're trying to expedite that. Does this make sense for what we've kind of already been doing? I think you guys were my guinea pigs. Honestly, we kind of trying to come up with a hybrid aspect to begin with. Does this make sense? Head nods and thumbs up. Any concerns or questions? All right, well, let's keep it going then. Because I think it really does help. Because the whole point is, even if you're the person drafting that proposal or language, you've already heard the concerns from the other side. You've already heard the options that they've generated. So if you were really being collaborative, you try to mold these together. So this is our very quick intentional negotiations. So I'm really doing it for more groups that are doing like maybe a full contract or things that are more contentious. And it's been working well. And with the limited amount of time that I have, it also helps for you guys too. So, all right. So we've gone over our norms. We've gone over dates. We've got a quick little overview of intentional negotiations. I believe there were some questions that the association/union wanted to have around the audit. Is that correct? See head nods. Okay. What questions might we have?
So I actually sent these questions to Q and Holly late last week, and Holly spent some of her weekend time trying to answer them for me. So thank you for that. But I think we should go over them all so that we're all on the same page, as well as anyone who might be listening in community-wise. So there were 3 questions posed. The first one asked about TOSA positions, TOSA being teacher on special assignment. One of the documents when the district's been playing around with numbers had a couple of TOSAs listed on it, and we couldn't really honestly put a face with the position. I know we're not supposed to be like naming people, but it's a small district. And the result of that was that there actually isn't any. That was just somehow ended up and it wasn't supposed to be there. So Holly confirmed with Robin that we actually don't have any TOSAs currently in the district.
We should probably mention what TOSA means. It means it's a teaching assignment, or what's it stand for? Teaching, just so folks know what that means.
Teacher on special assignment.
Yeah.
I think that's what it means. Another document they looked at, it was a spreadsheet of data when the local reporter had asked, can you give me an estimated number for the proposed pay increases? And we were unclear if the grant funded positions were on there. And I believe they were, so Holly pulled those out. There were a couple of additional questions, and Holly, jump in again at any time to clarify, because there were more. When I looked at it, I was like, oh, I didn't know we had like sped teachers on it. But ESSER funds are, if I'm understanding Holly correctly, ESSER funds are included in how they're calculating that. They're considered grant funds. So anybody that we've hired and paid out of ESSER would go on that grant funded list.
Hey, Jill.
That's correct. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, at some point, it might be helpful for folks who are listening if we even, well, I don't know if this is too detailed, but there are so many different kinds of grants, right? Like we've got RISE grant, we've got HDI grant, ESSER dollars are considered grant dollars. I don't know if at any point it'd be helpful to just give that a little bit of light so folks know. Title is considered grant dollars, or maybe it doesn't matter. I'll sit back and listen and just keep that in the back of my mind.
And maybe that would even help us, because I don't deal in those numbers all the time. So I don't know all of them. So that might be something we want to investigate. The last question was kind of a harder lift. Sorry. We had looked at some data last year at bargaining that showed a significant increase in a category called central support. And we have data back to 2016, and it increased from 205,000 up to about 480,000. So it's a really large jump. And we were just hoping for some clarity on what accounted for those increases. And that's something I think Holly is still maybe working on, because that's going to take.
Yeah, I have the spreadsheet ready. I have all the data in there. I can share that if you want, between 2016 and 2020 for central support. I haven't dove into the changes and the variances you're talking about from year to year, but I was able to tie out to your variance amounts.
Okay.
So I am working on that. I actually pulled a report right as I was leaving, so I can provide you that. But if you want, I can share just so folks can see what you're kind of talking about.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Then I can catch up on my notes.
Sounds good. Okay, this is kind of what Jill was just talking about, specifically to central support in the general fund. So this is our 5-year audit history for that central support, salary, benefits, purchase services, materials, property, and other objects and uses. From 16 all the way through 2020. So it doesn't include our most recent audit. This is all the same auditor. They were just questioning the difference here between 17 to 16. So it increased about 65,000. Likewise, between 2019, 2018 was about 110,000, 111. And then from 2020 to 2019, was about 99,000. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling some reports right now to figure out what changed and what increased these. I kind of gave Jill some high level points that yes, as we got salary increases, obviously these lines are going to inflate. Benefits I don't really look at because those always just get tied to what the salary increases to. And then we had that new para rate that went into effect a couple years ago. So that increased probably 2019, 2020, as you can see. And then purchase services is likely mostly software, and those are mostly purchased in July for the whole year. But I'll dig deeper to see what high ticket items lie in those lines. So more to come on that.
I have a couple of questions that actually for either Holly or Jill, because it might even help us kind of peel it back a little bit. With the salaries, where my brain would go is, well, does that include any of the grant funded positions like in the 2019 or 2020? Is any of that, or, and I think you answered that for me before. I think you said it's all general fund, right? Can you confirm that, Holly?
Yes, this is
Okay,
Central
good.
Support General Fund. Yep.
Thank you. And then not now, because you probably don't have the data, but I'd be curious to then think about which positions are pulling from the salaries. When I saw Jill's question, I was thinking about it and I'm like, okay, so what might explain that increase? And sometimes I infer the right thing and sometimes I infer the wrong thing, but if I knew which positions were coming for it, that might be helpful. The one thing, and Robin, you might be able to jump in here. When I was hired in 2019, I think. And when I came on, Robin was doing both HR and assistant to the board and assistant to the superintendent. After living that for a little while, I went, eek, we need to have that position split up, which is what the school district used to have. And so we basically reinstated the assistant position. That was Lisa Stam, and now it's Athena. I'm wondering if that accounts for some of those dollars. I'd be curious about that. And then again, not knowing what comes out of there and thinking about what Emily just kind of took us through in terms of really trying to understand the questions. At some point, it might be helpful to know from CCCEA, are there things you're wondering about specifically, or things like kind of what's the why behind the question that might help us, or even might help me answer it in a way that meets everyone's needs?
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at the spreadsheet and it seems like benefits is where something changes big time between 2018 and 2019. And so, because salary only goes up a little bit, right? It only goes up 8,000. And then benefits jumps up 140,000.
Well, so partially is that because that new para bill, the Senate Bill 200 started in this year.
That's a huge jump
on top of salary increases. So that's why I'll dig deeper into that.
Yeah.
Would that include Very Pay coming out of there?
It would.
Well, I can tell you guys I'm totally talking out of turn, and Robin, jump in if I'm wrong, but I would bet that's a big chunk of that. I'm still wrapping my head around what that program means for our district. I didn't mean to go in that negative way. That's not the right reaction. Hooray, it's a wonderful benefit. And maybe Robin, you want to hop on quickly and explain what Very Pay is so everyone knows, because I will butcher it. I think that's an important piece.
So Very Pay is a voluntary early retirement program that was it was like incentive for early retirement. And it was for anybody hired before, I think 2004. And it starts, your percentage that you can retire starts at your year 20 with the district. And I don't have my chart with me, but it starts out at, a small percent you get of your final year that you decide to retire, you get a portion of that. And then every year till you get to year 25, which is your maximum, year 25, if you retire, you get 100% of that salary for that final year spread out like over 4 years. So the people who are on it are getting less and less as they move out. There's less and less people on it. So that's what that program is. And I think right now we do have, since I've been here, there's, I think more now than there's ever been on the VERY program. So that's what the VERY program is.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I
It's
could
also-
be way off.
It's also somewhat temporary, right? Like it's just 2 or 3 or 4 years, depending
Well,
on.
and it kind of goes with that chart. Like there's a few years where you can get it spread out over 4 years, or sometimes it goes anywhere from like 2 years to 4 years. So it varies with the number of years. And once you get to that 25 years, you get it spread out over 4 years, 100% of your pay. And then it starts to drop really fast. So if you're here 26 years, it drops down to 86% of your final pay over 3 years. So, and then it starts to go down. So yes, it varies.
No
But the
problem.
maximum number of years that you could get it is 4 years.
Well, that would make sense. then.
Any other questions at this point?
So I'll work on this, digging deep in the data, and I'll share it with Jill and whoever else.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Holly.
Yep.
Any other audit questions? Those were all of them?
I did have one. Have we, I don't know that we can finalize. So ESSER 3 still has, after this school year, still has 2 more years on it. Is that correct?
September of 2024. Yep.
Okay. I haven't seen like an updated budget for how we're spending those funds. I know what we talked about. Is that something I can find on the website? I haven't even looked, I'll be real honest.
I don't technically post it, but I can share it as often as you need. I was going to do a quarterly update here at the next board meeting.
Okay.
And usually I kind of elaborate on those. But if you want to see something sooner, I can share it. We really are just barely starting to spend that money. We just submitted the application. Know that the items though are like ever changing. We just had to get it over the fence. So there's very little that's been spent, but I'll provide a financial update at the April 26th meeting.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And I just unmuted because I super love the idea of elevating ESSER when you're doing the quarterly report, because I would love for other folks, I'd love for everyone to hear how we plan that out too. It was, a collaborative process. And then I also know that Holly took a big part of that and was creating the budgets and getting it approved. And I don't feel like I've done a great job of then rolling that back out to the community to say, and here are the big priorities that we heard and that we landed on. So it's partly selfish, like, yes, please share that with everyone. And if there are questions, let's get them answered. So.
Yeah, and I can clearly define too, like these are, items that could tentatively change. These are items that are going to stick to kind of offset the general fund and kind of walk anybody through that.
Awesome. Because in my head, I've spent it like 8 times.
I know.
Like, we can take that out of ESSER. We can take that out of ESSER. Good thing we have Holly.
Update. Thank you again, Holly, on an update for that on our next meeting, the 25th, for regarding ESSER funds. Any other financial audit questions for the group?
Sorry, I want to clarify what I think I heard is Holly's doing a quarterly update at the next board meeting, which is April 26th. It's an evening one. I think certainly she could bring the ESSER stuff back at the next meeting, but for us all together, it might be more efficient if everyone listens to the board meeting, which is recorded, and or we get it out to her. It doesn't matter to me, but I think she'll be presenting it there. I was asking for a elevation of ESSER at the board meeting so our whole community can hear that at the same time.
Does that work for you guys, the board meeting?
Okay, I think so.
Okay.
I'm sure I have lots of other things I can think about in the meantime.
Yay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on this topic? All right. And then I have on my notes here regarding the ESP aspect. Was there some updates around that? I'll be honest, I'm kind of in the dark on this one, so I'll turn it over to one of the sides on this.
Sure. So I think that, it's come up perennially at this table that the ESP have also been recognized for CCCEA to bargain, a CBA with them as well. Same kind of parameters, same kind of based on the resolution from the board. And so, but it's been stated that we needed a separate demand to bargain. And so Melanie submitted that separate demand last week. And so our proposal at this point for that was to bargain together at one table, since we have ESP and teacher representation here on our team, and CCCEA is listed as the bargaining agent for both. And since the contracts are fairly limited in terms of what we can bargain, it's mostly compensation anyway, which I think is best negotiated together. And so what we would propose at this point is that we, as the ones who brought the demand and the proposal, come back with a draft at our next session that we can provide in advance to, so y'all can review it of what we would want for the ESP CBA, and then we can talk about it, and if there need to be revisions, do that.
So just to make sure I'm hearing correctly, that you'd want to do like a draft kind of CBA around ESP, bring that to this group. We can talk about it, flesh it out, see if there's any amendments, knowing that there's just minimal topics that we can bargain based on the recognition.
Right.
So love the idea of the draft CBA ahead of time. And I still want to separate, even if we're designating the meeting as this is for ESP, our team, because we've had a chat about it, will probably be the same people on the team. But I don't want to intermix the two at the same meetings. I want them to be separate. And that's not in any way to be a pain in the butt. It's to help us think about, some of the questions might be different, even how, as we were thinking about the requests that came at the board meeting, wanting to dive into some of better understanding what the desire is with that. I think it was the minimum of 20 an hour. So I'd still like to keep it separate. I mean, it's up to you guys who's on the team. We know our team will be the same. Maybe it's even we say, all right, so this date, May 2nd is for ESPs only, but I want it to be separate. Brent offered the same. He offered to draft the CBA. I don't know that it matters. If you guys are willing to do it, that's awesome. And I don't know. I can't remember when we did the original CBA, how much happened between, because that was Misty, I think, CEA, and she was awesome. And you are too, but I miss Misty. I can't remember how much happened between CEA and Brent, like ahead of time, almost like a little subcommittee, and then bringing it back to the whole group. It felt like a really good process. So in my mind, that would be, and I'm saying this out loud to check my thinking, and for all of us, it's a separate CBA. So we have the ESP CBA, and then that's really hard to say. And then our existing CBA for certified. So, I mean, in a way, it's like we're splitting hairs, but I still want to think of it as a separate meeting, even if it's all the same faces. And maybe that's even more for, as we are not only creating it, because there'll be some different questions, right? Different things that maybe come up. Although I think Jackie and Brent probably have a ton of experience doing both kinds of CBAs, and then it lives separate, even when we're gone. And yeah. So Jackie, I can see your thinking.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about how, especially when it comes to compensation, the decisions that we would make in one meeting would inevitably impact the decisions that we make in the other. And given that, CCCA represents both groups, I think it makes sense for us to talk about those things together in order to balance those two constituencies under the same umbrella of representation in the organization. And I'm just thinking through how we would manage that well by separating them out distinctly like that. Because, you know, we already have to take ESP into consideration when we bargain here for, which has been exclusively so far for teacher and SSP compensation. I mean, the conversation might be more complex, but I think the solution would be easier if we talked about them together.
See, I maybe again, it's because I can't, and I know what I know, right? Like this is what I'm used to doing, having two different ones. And it doesn't mean that I can't see beyond that, but I'm definitely, and I think and it's not, I want to speak for my team. We definitely see it as potentially, even as we're talking about compensation, I don't know how we'd be able to talk through that all at once. I definitely understand there's an impact on each other because it's like one big pie, right? You know, that's absolutely true of everything. But, you know, with 80% of our budget going to people, that's the biggest impact. And Robin, jump in if I'm saying anything incorrectly, but, you know, I'm thinking about the salary schedules. I'm thinking about the implications for hourly versus certified, where it's on salary and the schedules look different. I guess I'm not quite understanding why it would matter to CCCEA if they're separate or together, because I mean, it's still us, we're doing the same thing. I don't know if your team will remain the same or if it'll look different. And again, I think we might be able to use a date or part of the dates that we've already got identified to do the ESP. You know, there's our, when I talked with Melanie following the board meeting, was very much like, yep, let's get this done. Let's, you know, tell me who you want to bring to the table. Tell me, let's get the dates set, like, let's go, let's make it happen. I think that feels good to everyone. So maybe help me understand on a little bit deeper level why it matters if it's together or apart. Because from the financial perspective, that's something that, well, Holly has to worry about it. Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to elaborate on that. I think we choose to keep it separate just from a financial perspective, just because we're talking about whether all teachers or some not teachers, some are food services. I look at them in two different buckets, and I feel like they're going to be advocating in two different ways. I think it could be done on the same page, but I think we just prefer to do it separate. But we also, I mean, other than what kind of you already said, we would like to know more as to why. I just prefer to have them separate, but you know, because you have one group, you know, advocating for one, another group advocating for them for totally different areas. So I think that's just where we stand.
Maybe a question to consider too is if it's going to be, well, first, is it going to be the same team that you guys have? In which case, maybe a way to move it forward is, again, have CCCEA draft the CBA. And with one of our dates on the calendar, maybe what do we have? 3 hours at each one. Maybe we designate it and say the first hour and a half, we're going to talk about whatever having to do with certified. Second hour and a half, we're specifically working on the ESP CBA the first time. I would think with compensation, maybe the same thing could be true, but part of that would depend on who's on the team and what that's going to look like.
I feel like I'm talking too much for my team. I think we had envisioned keeping the team the same, which to me is part of why, you know. So I think breaking it out as two separate agenda items makes perfect sense. But if it's the same teams, to me, adding more meetings is probably what it is.
Yeah. So what if we go
Right.
into it and try that? What if we, because we know we've got another date coming up, what if we have, I mean, physically like two, maybe that's a good compromise, right? Like two separate agendas. And that allows us to think about them chunked like that. It allows us to, because I agree with you. I think probably the biggest topic for both, right, is probably around compensation and what that's going to look like. But it allows us to think about it in two separate chunks. Maybe we do a 5-minute break in between. We all blink and we come back together, and here we are, and we're doing it. I'd be comfortable with that if you guys are.
I think, to answer one of your questions earlier, Q, like why we would want it together, I think we view ourselves as educators and, ESP along with the classified or certified people. And that's probably why we'd like to be united, because we certainly don't want to separate or create division, because I think for a little while there was a little of that, probably 7 or 8 years ago, where certain groups were able to negotiate things that other groups weren't. So I think it's really important to us to all come together with our asks. I do understand that, there's so many different columns and different kinds of ESPs. I get it, but yeah, I'm okay with giving an hour and a half to, or however we decide it. I do think it's the same team.
Well, who's all in the classified unit? Like what positions generally?
Oh my goodness, Robin, you're gonna have to help me out.
Well, I mean, I guess my point is, it seems like paraprofessionals are in there, but also bus drivers, custodians,
Maintenance, food service.
Yeah, I guess what I'm hearing is, and I think that these were designated as different bargaining units because they have entirely different communities of interest. They have different supervisory paradigms. They have different work sites. They have vastly different job functions. And if I were you all too, one thing I would be considering is whether, if we lumped it all together, if you really felt like you could fairly represent both groups in the same negotiation session. Because what if, for example, shouldn't you be able to, might there be a scenario in which you can reach an agreement on the classified agreement, but not on the teacher's one, or vice versa? I think from my perspective, it's important for both sides to keep these separate.
Yeah, I thank you. Melanie, you unmuted. Were you going to say something?
I did. I'm kind of the newbie on the bargaining team and the only ESP. And so I like, even if we would have the same people, which I don't know if Polly and Jill would be, with me for bargaining for the ESP or how that's going to work. We haven't talked about that. And I like the idea of having us all together because ultimately we are all together in the workplace, for a meeting and to just have people help me in this process. So I don't know. I think we're going to have to just talk about it amongst ourselves and see who would be on the team. Because we just anticipated that we'd be including it. So.
Thank you, Melanie. And I want to validate what both, I think Polly and Melanie said, because you guys know we use the term educator for everyone. I've been super specific about that. So yep, totally agree. Like we are all educators. We all have a positive impact on kids because that's what absolutely matters. And so yes, absolutely. And again, it's up to you guys who goes on the team. We know our team is going to be the same. And I'm not in any way trying to add, double meetings. Good Lord, you guys, we're all busy enough, especially Jill feeling her pain right now. And so not that, but I still, and I appreciate you guys helping us think it through. I still want to separate the agendas. So let's say We decide on the 25th or May 2nd, the first hour and a half is specific to certified, the second hour and a half is specific to ESP. You guys decide if your team members swap out or if it's the same. Melanie, I can't imagine you're not going to have support working through this. And my biggest reason, you guys, is I think what Brent and Robin brought up and Holly brought up already, that the scales, the salary, the schedules are different. I have questions around what the ESP folks are hoping to, what they want, how they want it to look given the ask. And that's a specific question to ESPs, because as I think about the schedules, they're different. And then depending on what goes into the CBA, given the resolution, what are some of those other things that may look the same or different? But I'm comfortable with the solution we came up with, and we try it and go from there. And yeah, Jill, you're unmuted. I'll mute.
I've been contemplating if we need some caucus time on this, but it sounds like we may have come to an agreement as far as what to do next time. I don't know, Emily, if you want to kind of poll and see if anyone else is interested in caucus time or not.
Yeah, I was going to do a consensus check on the idea around April 25th, half an hour, hour and a half for certified, hour and a half for the ESPs. We want to do a quick consensus check. If you guys do want a 5-minute quick caucus as well, please always feel free. But I was going to do a check to see where everyone's heads are at. So is everyone okay with that idea for the agenda on the 25th? If you want a caucus, you can always ask for a caucus. I don't want to pressure, but I'm seeing head nods, maybe a caucus. Okay.
I feel like we should chat.
Okay. So it's 4:58 on my computer screen. How much time do you guys think you might need?
If we do 10 minutes, we can have a good 5-minute chat and a one function.
5 minutes chat, one function. Okay, let's reconvene at 5. Wow, can't do math. 5:08. So 5:08 we'll reconvene. I'm just going to turn my laptop, my camera off, my audio off. I can do this. And then I'll just stay here. Are you going to leave, Jill or Jackie? One of you. I think you're Jackie. You're running it, aren't you?
Yes, I was going to turn off the live stream. So folks who are watching, there's going to be a new live stream when we come back in 10 minutes. And I figure if we turn off the live stream, if district folks want to jump off into a meet, we can just stay here because we won't be streamed. Sound
Okay,
good?
perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll set up a quick Google Meet for my team, you guys.
And just so you know, I'm going to turn off. I'm turning my microphone, my audio all the way down. I will not hear you. So just everything that you can talk amongst yourselves. I'm not listening, I promise.
Right. Wait, I have a question before we all go. Do I unjoin this and rejoin again the Zoom?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
thank you. Okay, bye-bye.